What's a great game console that's easy to fingerprint but still stylish? That's right, the PlayStation 3 with its piano gloss finish. It's like 90 pounds. Love this thing. Huge game catalog. I reviewed countless PlayStation 3 games over the years. Let's check out some of my favorite reviews here in Best PlayStation 3 Reviews Volume 1 by Classic Game Room. The PS3 is still super fun to play today, except, you know what I really miss? PlayStation Home. How cool was PlayStation Home? You could run around that lobby and just terrorize people. And I loved the London pub. I got to build my own pub and fill it with arcade games. Super cool. Maybe they'll bring back PlayStation Home one of these days. Sony. Don't forget the London pub. It was awesome. PlayStation. It's getting a workout lifting this thing. Feel the burn. Yeah.
Golden Axe Beast Rider. Ride the beast. Now here's a game that I don't think I've heard anything positive about from anyone. I'm recording this in the middle of 2009, and by now the price has dropped to the point where this is a budget game. It costs less than many downloadable games. And you know, it's not that bad. It's fairly mediocre on most accounts, but if you can pick this game up for 10 or 20 bucks, you'll get some good hack and slash burning people with monsters kind of fun out of it. Look at it this way, you get to burn people with monsters and cut them in half, so the controls aren't as good as they could be, but you get to burn people with monsters and cut them in half. Visually the game doesn't look that bad, it plays in 1080p and looks excellent on a large high-definition television. And when you burn people with monsters and cut them in half, it looks cool. By the way, did I mention that you get to burn people with monsters and cut them in half? If I didn't, let me just say it again. You get to burn people with monsters and cut them in half. Alright, check it out on screen. Did you notice what just happened? I just burned people with a monster. Say, where's the monster dealership around here? There it is. You know they lose 10% of their value when you ride them off the parking lot. And I don't care what everybody else says. Maybe they want to make friends and solve puzzles and stuff, but I like burning people with monsters and cutting them in half, so I enjoyed my time playing Golden Axe Beast Rider. And this game has sacrifice doors. Doors that you can't open until you impale somebody on a spike nearby. And it's green technology because you're not using electricity to open doors. So it's somewhat impractical, but we'll look beyond that. Now there are some problems with the game, and if you're going to nitpick it, visually the game does start to look the same after a while. All the backgrounds start to blend together. It's got that whole Conan the Barbarian kind of feel to it. And that's not bad, that's a good thing usually. In the combat department, it actually has a lot in common with the original Golden Axe from the Sega Genesis days in the arcade. Theoretically, at least. One major rule applies: you do not want to get surrounded by enemies. Then it becomes very difficult to defeat them. You want to try to pick them off one at a time. Also, it has little gnomes that you beat around and get magic and health. If you're one of those people who's really into the original Golden Axe, I could see where you would be disappointed with this version. Personally, I enjoy the original Golden Axe, at least the one on the Genesis that I've played before, and that's an excellent game to play with friends. And this is a pretty massive departure from the original, especially when you get into the combat system. But you do get to burn people with monsters and cut them in half. Now, let's talk about the combat system. It's got this weird thing where people will come at you with an attack that's either red, blue, or green. If you can react in time and hit the proper button, you will perform a counter move and then have a more powerful attack afterwards. So if they come at you with a blue attack, you hit the R1 button on the PS3 controller, block it, and then you have a more powerful attack. We're watching the PS3 version. This game is also available for Xbox 360. This does sort of slow down combat a bit and makes it clunky. It's not nearly as fluid as, say, the Wolverine game I reviewed recently, where you just hack and slash with just fluid, non-stop movement. This one is more like a hack and slash. Then you need to back off, watch your enemies block, attack. Sacrifice door! I love those. They need to have those at Lowe's. Frequently you'll have guys standing off to the side dropping boulders on you or trying to electrocute you, and then you can bounce back magic bolts. And by the way, you get to burn people with monsters and cut them in half. The game is pretty bare bones. You don't get multiplayer. The PS3 version doesn't even have trophies. And for the most part, it's really nothing groundbreaking, but it is fun. As I've said previously, yes, you do get to burn people with monsters and cut them in half. It could be an acronym. I tried writing this down. TBPWMACTIH. Needs more vowels. Golden Axe Beast Rider. If you want to just sit around and complain about why every game doesn't look exactly like Metal Gear Solid 4, then you probably won't like Golden Axe Beast Rider, but if you like burning people with monsters and cutting them in half, give it a play. I have a list of words that belong in every video game title, and of course I'm talking about words like space, ninja, dragon, cyborg, and dungeon. Anytime these words are used in a game, it gets my attention, and this is Dungeon Siege 3. Sadly, it does not have a subtitle, Space Dragon Ninja Cyborg, or Cyborg Ninja Space Dragon, or Space Cyborg Dragon Ninja. All of which could be living in a dungeon, or at least conquering the universe from within a dungeon. In this game, you'll just be sieging dungeons, swamps, forests, castles, and pretty much everything else. It's a hack and slash, role-playing, action-adventure style game for the PlayStation 3, Xbox 360, and PC. And if you're familiar with the genre, you'll want to pay attention, because Dungeon Siege 3 is a big game full of monster slaughtering goodness, with a plot that's somewhat standard, but extremely fun once you get into it. Dungeon Siege 3 is, as the title suggests, the third game in the Dungeon Siege series. But you don't have to have played the first two to enjoy this one.
although it does take place many years after events in the earlier games. We're watching the PS3 version, and this is from Obsidian Entertainment and Square Enix, two companies that are popular around classic game room. And for starters, while this feels like a consoleized PC adventure game, it works extremely well with the controller. The button assignments, the controls, everything's very intuitive and works extremely well, which isn't always the case with these kinds of games when they come over to a console, so they did a good job with this one. While it's got its own style, its own storyline, and its own thing, this does remind me of games like Dragon Age Origins, Sacred 2, and Divinity 2. So if you dug any of those, look at this one. Dungeon Siege 3 is extremely linear compared to many other adventure games, and those who find exploration a bore may enjoy this one because it guides you where you need to go quickly. But keep an eye out for chests or things hiding in the corners or behind trees that have armor and weapon upgrades and all that kind of stuff. But as you can see looking at the map, it's pretty clear where you need to go and can find you most of the time to paths or dungeons. If you push up on the D-pad, it will also guide you right to your next objective, which is handy for those with no patience, like me. But don't worry, you'll still have to slaughter lots of horrible monsters and spiders and slugs along the way, all the while leveling your character up. There's 4 characters to choose from. Shortly after starting the game, you get a partner, and yes, you can play co-op with a friend. Naturally, I chose the character that's a walking flamethrower. One could say she's hot. She's not real. But she is pretty kick-ass in battle as you just put a wall of fire on the ground in front of you, shoot people with fire, let dogs loose that are on fire, and basically overcook everything and everyone in front of you. I generally like any game where you can summon dogs, especially when they're on fire and have really creepy howls. It's like having a friendly pooch at your side, except it burns like hell when you pet them. But wait, there's more. By tapping the L1 button on the PlayStation 3 controller, you revert back to your normal form, as normal as that is, and hack and slash people with your staff, which is better for close quarters combat. So mixing up the two styles is what makes battles fun and interesting, and you'll need to rely on some tactics to get through some challenging end bosses. I personally enjoy this kind of game and found Dungeon Siege 3 to be easy to pick up and play, enjoyable, and entertaining. It's immediately fun, unlike some games that take 8 to 10 hours to get into it. This one starts you off with a weapon in one hand and some magic in the other. You're rebuilding the Legion, there's lots of asses to kick, and don't forget to buy some new armor along the way.
Blood floating in the sky.
As you can see, the game has some extremely creative art design, colorful visuals, and the music is excellent. If you like to spend hours mauling your way through enemies, leveling your character up, learning new magic spells, and fighting end bosses, Dungeon Siege 3 is a game that you'll want to look at. When you put guns and rockets and missiles on a helicopter, great things happen. You're bringing friendship to the masses, and by friendship I mean explosions, because everybody likes explosions, especially that guy and the other guy over there and that one. They're like, yeah, rock, Apache Air Assault. What? I'm dead? Aw man, this sucks. You know, I always kind of assumed that Airwolf was like Knight Rider and flew itself, but it didn't. There was a human being that piloted Airwolf, which was real, and actually lived in a volcano. And I have more respect than ever for any human being that can actually pilot a helicopter, because it's damned hard in a video game, when you don't have to worry about killing yourself or wasting taxpayer money. And I kind of expected that going into this, that the controls were going to make or break Apache Air Assault. And in some respects, that's true. You have to give the controls a chance if you're interested in playing this game. It's not just Hawks with helicopters, it's far more challenging. But at the same time, you can hover over targets and shower them with missiles. I mean, that's priceless. The thing to keep in mind if you pick this game up is it's not immediately playable. You'll have to play a few of the missions over and over again to get the feel of the helicopter, because you're doing 2 or 3 things at once all the time in here. You're piloting the helicopter, you're trying to use missiles and rockets, and you're also trying to machine gun things simultaneously. And you can configure the controls pretty much any which way. There's 4 different camera views. And after hours of playing it, I'm still not sure what the perfect configuration is. It changes per mission. And the game is fun once you figure out how to fly this thing, but I'll get right to the point, it could have used a lot of refinement. And I get the sense that this is their first attempt, that there's definitely a lot of room for improvement, primarily in the mission objectives. Half the time it's just not really clear what it is you're supposed to do. And especially at the beginning of the game, Apache Air Assault is not kind to first-time players, which is kind of a problem for it. Because it'll turn off a lot of people if they don't give the game a chance. And the first major mission in the game, or maybe it's the second one, the Lord of War mission, it's like Black Hawk Down, is just ridiculous for an early mission because it's really long and not entirely clear where to land the helicopter at the end. So the player doesn't really get a sense for how to complete a mission. Fortunately, and here's some advice, you can jump ahead 2 or 3 missions to something shorter. It's more obvious. And then go back and play some of the other ones, and thankfully, the game is forgiving. If you're shot down or you crash, which you will a lot, you have extra lives, at least in the beginner setting. Now, the controls are tricky. In the camera pulled back perspective, as we're watching it here, I'm not sure why the helicopter is off-center, but you get used to that fairly quickly. The left control stick, this is the PlayStation 3 version, moves it forward or backward, left and right strafes. The right control stick will move it up or down and rotate it. So it's a lot more complicated than an airplane in an arcade-style flight game. And make no mistake, this is an arcade-style flight game. It's actually very similar to Tom Clancy's Hawks series. There's a storyline which is like ripped out of any other video game, terrorists, nuclear weapons, blah blah blah. They should have discovered dinosaurs and like sent you in to blow them all up or something. Mix it with Jurassic Park. That would have been a lot cooler. Like, oh no, we've discovered Tyrannosaurus Rex is eating people and the only thing in range is an Apache helicopter. Wow, that, you know what, that's actually the plot of every Godzilla movie. Never mind. But they always used, like, spaceships wrapped in tinfoil. When you push down on the left trigger, it'll auto-hover, and then you can go into that machine gun mode with a thermal view and start blowing things away, which leaves you vulnerable, of course, to missiles and RPG fire. This is one of those games that'll probably get beat up by a lot of people over controls, but you've got to give them some time, and even then it's still not perfect. I think that we've just become accustomed to like perfect games anymore, but this one's pretty tricky. Because of all of these different things that you're doing at once. They could have made it easier with more obvious objectives, and if there's a sequel, I think there's a lot of room for improvement that'll enhance an already cool experience. But as it is, it'll probably have more of a niche audience than just your straightforward airplane jet flight simulator or arcade-style flight game. It kind of reminds me of the old school classic, what was that, Comanche Maximum Overkill, which I mentioned in another review, but back in the 90s the games were not put under quite the same microscope as they are today. If you're up for the initial learning curve and some frustrating mission objectives until you figure out the game and are really into the helicopter stuff, then Apache Air Assault is one you might want to look at. It's not that long, but there's some free flight modes, but you've really got to love helicopters to dig Apache Air Assault. I look forward to the sequel, Apache Air Assault 2 with some more refinement and a more creative storyline. Helicopters versus dinosaurs. Apache 2 kills more dinosaurs before 7 a.m. than most meteorites do all millennium.
Welcome to Classic Game Room, coming to you from the Intergalactic Space Arcade, under construction, as you can see. Didn't feel a thing. This is the review of the 2009 Bionic Commando. Nope, nothing.
I know there's something I'm supposed to be doing, but I'm just gonna keep throwing bodies at this Pepsi sign until it dispenses Pepsi. Come on, I'm thirsty. It's Bionic Commando. Swing into action once again as Nathan Red Spencer, who's got a super cool bionic arm but never learned to swim. It turns out to be his undoing time and time again. This is the 2009 Bionic Commando being played here on the PlayStation 3, not to be confused with the 1988 Bionic Commando for the Nintendo Entertainment System. This is like a 3D-ish spiritual successor or sequel that takes the 2D Bionic Commando gameplay and turns it into this. Sometimes it works out pretty well, other times it's just downright sloppy and awkward. Yay, I got a collectible. Can I download a new Faith No More cassette? Well, it's not nearly as interesting as the 1988 Bionic Commando for the NES, which was actually based on the 1987 Capcom arcade machine. I think you might enjoy this version of Bionic Commando if you give the game a chance. It takes a while to get into it. In fact, it took me several years. I love the NES game. It's one of my favorites from the era, and I remember beating it back in the day and took a picture of the signature at the end and mailed it to Nintendo Power, who never printed my picture, so screw you, Nintendo Power. My point being, for many of us, this game had a lot to live up to. Maybe too much to live up to, because it's immediately unimpressive. Until you get the hang of the controls. There's a lot to like here, but it's not exactly a shooter, and it's not exactly like Bionic Commando. Kind of a hybrid of the two. Obviously, the bionic arm is the star of the game, unless you count Nathan Spencer as the star of the game, who is brilliantly voiced by Mike Patton, the lead singer of Faith No More and Mr. Bungle, teaching us that love is not a fist, it's a giant bionic arm with a clampy thing on the end of it.
You'll thank me for that one day.
That's right, kids, it's time to make some enemies redundant. There's many nods to the original, and the music is frequently very good as well. The game is compartmentalized, like the NES game. You play through levels, some of which have more swinging, others are more shooting, and then there's boss battles. Conveniently, there's always lots of things to swing on, kind of like Jersey barriers in Gears of War. Why are there so many? It's not that I'm mad, I'm just disappointed that there's not more Bionic Commando games, because this one clearly leaves room for improvement, but it's Bionic Commando and it's still cool. The fundamentals work pretty well once you get used to them.
Our last defense. But the higher-ups scrapped it during the purge.
Do you mean it's bionic?
Your comprehension is not necessary to complete this mission. Just get me that device.
Joe, I got something. Some kind of code.
It's probably an access code used by BioRay called a Matrix. Maybe you can open some of their locked doors now.
Since when could Nathan Red Spencer jump? I mean, that was That was like the whole thing with the original and the Bionic Arm. You couldn't jump, so you had to swing to get places. At least you can use your Bionic Arm to do other things like pick up cars and throw them. You just gotta play for a few hours until you get that skill. I'll give Capcom and Grin some credit for trying something different with this game. They took an ambitious approach, and it may or may not have paid off for them. This can be easily found these days in the bargain bin, or you can download it cheaply from Steam for your PC. I feel like the industry's been getting away from big budget games like this, games that aren't a sure bet, and Bionic Commando is not a sure bet. There's no guarantee you're gonna like this. The controls are strange, the atmosphere is kind of weird, and the story is uninspired, but it has Mike Patton, and that's always a good thing.
Sucks to be you!
Even though most of the levels are kind of bland and all look the same, this is the kind of game that gets better the more that you play it. I think once I came to a realization my most powerful weapon was picking up enemy soldiers and throwing them at each other, the game seemed to make more sense. But you gotta remember it's Bionic Commando, not a shooter, so you either learn to swing and hurl enemies at each other, or you fall to your doom and then respawn at the beginning of the level.
Banished from Earth Classic Game Room broadcasts from the Intergalactic Space Arcade on its never-ending mission to review everything.
Sam destroyed.
Welcome to Classic Game Room, where it's time to destroy $1 trillion worth of airplanes, helicopters, boats, jeeps, and whatever else will explode in Ace Combat Assault Horizon. Horizon. It's very dramatic. Horizon. Horizon.
Here we go.
Namco's popular Ace Combat series has been around for quite some time now. In 2011's Ace Combat Assault Horizon has not been terribly well received by fans, and I was curious as to why that is, so I downloaded the game. It's pretty cheap for the PlayStation 3. I mean, how bad can it be, right? You blow things up with airplanes, and it looks really nice. We've also got some helicopters here, bombers, and these people, none of whom are remotely interesting.
Only one pilot fills out a flight suit that well.
You'll be filling a grave if you're not careful.
Oh, a desperate attempt at humor. And maybe that's part of the problem. Ace Combat Assault Horizon feels like an Ace Combat game that's lost its identity. Does it want to be modern warfare combined with burnouts and jets?
Looking good so far.
Or does it want to be an Ace Combat game? I'm not entirely sure. I'm leaning towards the first one.
Anti-air gun destroyed.
This is a textbook example of style over substance. Because it looks great, for the most part, it sounds really good. The jets are awesome. But you'll quickly realize that every single mission is exactly the same. You fly around and dogfight with enemy jets. You make sure to color all your aircraft bright green just because you can, and then fly really close to them, where you engage this sort of slow-down, stylish, auto-targeting shooter-on-rails feature, which makes blowing them up somewhat easier, and then you watch explosions in slow motion, right?
Bandit acquired.
And make sure to enjoy all of the blinky lights and beeping noises while you're at it. I just remember the other Ace Combat games being better than this.
All the way home.
Because even though this auto-targeting thing is kind of cool the first couple times, when you've done it 100 times, it's just the exact same thing, over and over and over again.
Magic to Werewolf Flight. We still have several contacts.
And that's really the biggest problem here. Otherwise, it's pretty cool. I think the music is genuinely good. It sounds like a big-budget movie, but it fits the action in the game. And you'll certainly find a lot of action, but you won't find much that feels like you're flying an airplane. Like, Afterburner has more realistic flight controls than Ace Combat Assault Horizon. Although to be fair, the game plays well for what it's trying to do. You just point in the direction that you want to go, and you go there. Solely to eventually lock onto an enemy target and slow motion shoot it down.
Box 3.
I seriously started to cheer for myself when I could blow up enemies without having to lock on to them. And when an enemy gets behind you, you squeeze both triggers at the same time like a quick time event, fly around behind them and blow them up instead. So if you play this game, which I find somewhat disappointing, it's not god-awful, after a while I think you'll look forward to the helicopter missions because they offer diversity, not really because they're all that good either. I love the A-10 Thunderbolt here. I'd love one of those things in my garage, just to show how dumbed down this is. To strafe ground targets, you lock onto a point and it auto-guides you through a recommended attack pattern.
Target hit. Target destroyed.
Yeah, I've been on a flight game kick lately. I've played G-Lock, Afterburner, Air Force, Delta on the Dreamcast, and all of those games are better than this. As well as the earlier Ace Combat games, which are better than this. They're better because they actually have some respect for the airplanes. This is like a point-and-click adventure with explosions. And the storyline should go back to Modern Warfare from whence it came. In addition to the storyline, you can also jump into missions with a collection of airplanes that you'll acquire throughout the game. You can color them fancy colors, and even earn some upgrades and score points during arcade-style missions. There's also multiplayer. But if you like the Ace Combat series or arcade-style flight action games in general, I would stick with the older Ace Combat games. Even though you can find this one for a pretty good price these days. It's on PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360. Yeah, it looks nice and it's kinda cool at times, but it's been dumbed down past the point of no return, which I think is the actual title they should have given this game.
Box 2. Werewolf 1. Werewolf 1. Stand by. We have a civilian flight taking off. Whoa! Again! What are you doing here? It's a VIP evac flight. We're late getting off the ground.
Owen, I am pregnant.
If Fatal Attraction were made into a Japanese anime horror movie, it would be Catherine, except instead of finding your rabbit boiling in a pot, you'll find yourself climbing blocks in Dante's Inferno meets Eyes Wide Shut, a study in responsibility, growing up, and commitment. Players take the role of Vincent, average guy in his early 30s who likes to hang out with his buddies in the bar, who finds himself under pressure from his longtime girlfriend, Catherine, spelled with a K, to finally make that big commitment. Marriage. Vincent is living out these anxieties and fears as he sleeps in a sadistic, nightmarish version of climbing for dollars against sheep. And who is this mysterious Catherine, spelled with a C? A seductive nymphomaniac who wakes up next to Vincent after a night of heavy drinking. And as if that wasn't enough to lose sleep over, oh, by the way, your girlfriend is pregnant.
Huh? I think I'm pregnant.
Way to go, dumbass. And to add insult to injury, the Catherine that you're cheating on the pregnant Catherine with threatens to kill you if you cheat on her.
Cheating?
Time to hit the bar.
I know this is sudden, but here's some trivia about whiskey, now that you've emptied your glass.
Who says you can't learn things from video games? Number 1, don't cheat on your pregnant girlfriend with an obviously crazy chick, and number 2, here's the difference between whiskey and brandy. Does Vincent do the right thing, take responsibility, and grow up, or does he fall prey to seduction, one-night stands, and life as a bachelor? You'll find that you don't have complete control over Vincent. I tried to just make him run away because Catherine seems like way more trouble than she's worth. The crazy one, that is. But no matter what decision you make, you're still going to end up climbing blocks in a living hell. It's only at the end that you'll realize how your decisions have affected the outcome of the game. Beneath the Fatal Attraction-inspired storyline and stylish visuals, Catherine is a puzzle game, and a very challenging one. In fact, I found myself stuck in the middle of the game on the medium setting, so I restarted it on easy, played through the whole thing so I could actually review the game in a timely fashion. For those looking to challenge themselves with the puzzles, play on medium or the harder difficulty setting. If you'd just like to breeze through the storyline, enjoy the visuals, and tale of Vincent's internal conflict, play on easy, which is far, far easier than medium. There's a huge difference between those two settings. And if you enjoy the puzzles, you can play them over and over again. You are being scored, and you earn trophies which unlock songs in the bar.
I'm not letting you get away.
On the surface, it's a weird game, but it makes more sense when you play it from the beginning. And big fans of puzzle games might really dig Catherine. This is a flagship title from Atlas, available on the PlayStation 3 or Xbox 360. This is the PS3 version. And you can find yourself spending hours or days in this game, lounging around the bar, replaying puzzles, drinking different beverages, and learning facts about them. I will forewarn you that heavy drinking will impact Vincent's performance that night, as he faces his internal demons while he sleeps, except it's the Nightmare on Elm Street. You can actually die in your dreams, so somebody should really tell this guy to maybe just stick to water for a while. Man, this guy is so screwed. It's hilarious to watch his life suck. The funny thing is, the storyline is all about growing up and taking responsibility for your own actions. It represents that point in life when you realize that you can't be a kid forever, and if you'd like to hang on to your girlfriend, you've got to marry her. But what about the seductive blonde that sends him dirty pictures in the bathroom? She's crazy. Haven't you seen Fatal Attraction? Although his girlfriend seems kind of controlling. Maybe he should just move. So, what do? Become the deadbeat dad with the crazy girlfriend, or the guy with the ball and chain around his neck? I say that you invite everybody that you know over for drinks, take off, nuke the bar from orbit. It's the only way to be sure that all of your problems are solved, and you don't have to pay for your bar tab. I didn't see that option in the game. Maybe the sequel. Instead, it's climbing for your life before you wake up, before you die. Maybe you shouldn't be cheating on your girlfriend, or is she cheating on you? Wait a second. This guy's life is screwed. Oh, Vincent, you make such bad decisions.
What did you want to talk about?
What are you doing here?
May you rest in peace.
Back in a nuclear wasteland once again. If only there was something to do around here other than dying of starvation, dehydration, and radiation sickness. Say, that looks interesting. Let's check that out. New Vegas. As I understand it, what happens in New Vegas
I like what I see.
explodes, burns, and dies in New Vegas.
Please enjoy the casino.
Is it getting warm in here, or is it just me? Yeah, it's toasty. That's one hot game of blackjack. Hey, what do you mean people hate me? Come on, everyone loves this show. Besides, you said enjoy the casinos, and I'm enjoying them in my own special happy way. There's no dancing in the fountains in New Vegas. You take that behavior elsewhere, like Atlantic City. So here's the deal. You're shot, buried alive, and dug up by a robot, all for a platinum chip. But why?
Truth is, the game was rigged from the start.
If I ever see that guy again, I am not going to play it diplomatically.
What in the goddamn? Let's keep this in the groove, hey? Smooth moves, smooth.
It's called armor. I have a lot of it and spiked knuckles. Now give me back my chip. I've got plans for it. Anyway, without giving away the plot, Fallout New Vegas is very similar to the excellent Fallout 3. The kind of game that you can play your way as long as you've got a lot of time to play it. It's a giant epic adventure fantasy RPG combined with a shooter, just like Fallout 3. That can take the majority of your life to play depending on how in-depth you'd like to get. To play through a central storyline as you'd like to play through it, or embark on numerous side quests. And I think it's safe to say if you enjoyed Fallout 3, you'll enjoy this one. Because it's pretty much more of the same, which is the game's strength and its weakness. Fallout 3 was so awesome it's hard to beat. It's like Bioshock 2, you don't feel like you're visiting anywhere that you haven't been before. So the initial wow factor that I felt with Fallout 3 isn't really in this game, but the cast of characters and the storyline are very entertaining. It's like Fallout 3 with a Vegas style and slightly different color palette. But let me stress that you do not need to have played Fallout 3 to enjoy Fallout New Vegas. I personally would recommend it, because then you'll understand the VATS system and Pip-Boy and the backstory a bit more. But it's not required. The game still takes a long time to get started. Which makes it feel a bit slow at first if you have played through Fallout 3, because you start from scratch. You've got to meet all the characters, collect everything in sight, sell it for caps, and buy weapons and armor. And your level and abilities will increase as you complete missions, destroy things, and explore the area around New Vegas, which makes gameplay more fun as you get perks. But as cool as it all is, and as cool as the environment and all of the weapons and side missions are in Fallout New Vegas, I can't say that it's really a dramatic improvement over Fallout 3. And maybe it doesn't need to be, but aside from the times that you're in New Vegas, beneath the neon-lit casinos and torching gamblers, you'll spend most of your time in Fallout New Vegas wandering through the wasteland or crawling through dark, burned-out buildings, all of which feel very familiar. If you played through Fallout 3 and you enjoyed it, I would say play this game if you're looking for a new plot, because it is pretty funny. The robots and all the freaks dressed up like Roman soldiers, the New California Republic. There is a nice new cast of characters that do enhance a bunch of new storylines. Also, for veterans of Fallout 3, there's a super difficulty level, and you do get one massive game for the money in Fallout New Vegas. This is the PlayStation 3 version we're watching, which I have to admit was extremely jerky while walking around the wasteland. But don't lose your head if you want a wild, massive, role-playing adventure-style game with some very cool combat and lots of weirdo enemies. Fallout New Vegas has you covered. And the plot's pretty good from the beginning. Once you get hooked, it's hard to stop playing this game. Fallout New Vegas is best when you have some time to spend on it. I will recommend that you clear out a huge chunk of time, about a month, or at least lots of evenings. I think there are some more enhancements with the weapons, but it's actually been a while since I played Fallout 3. So I'm not sure of all the details, but nothing in this game replaces that initial feeling of leaving Vault 101 and seeing the burned-out wasteland of DC in front of you. But for an all-new adventure taking place in the West around New Vegas, it's predictable and satisfying for fans of Fallout.
Now it's holding up an array of fully erect hand...
As if Fallout New Vegas isn't big enough, how about some downloadable content to keep you playing even longer? It's Fallout New Vegas Old World Blues, where you discover a mysterious satellite and are transported somewhere else. And where that somewhere isn't entirely clear. It's called the Big Empty. And by the way, when you wake up, you realize your brain has been removed. And as if that isn't bad enough, it's also gone missing. So you don't know where you are, and you have no brain. Which sounds like every morning before I have 6 cups of coffee.
I don't know why it's down here, with its limbs all over everything. And are those penises I see wriggling on its feet?
Oh gosh, I hope not. I think those are toes. The first people that you meet are, well, they're not really people, are they? So you've been lobotomized. You've been cut apart and placed back together, haphazardly, according to the whatever the hell those things are. And your spine has been upgraded. The old one is in a tank. Your old heart is in a tank. It was also upgraded. But your brain is nowhere to be found. Yet you seem to be doing just fine without it. With this DLC comes an entirely new environment to explore and lots of new creatures to destroy. It's all quite interesting, and as you play through the DLC, you unravel the mystery behind this place.
Transmitting from my dome-shaped dome in the Forbidden Zone, a zone that is, yes, forbidden to you!
So, who's that guy? Why am I being attacked by Night Stalkers and lobotomized weirdos? What is going on here? Well, that's what's fun about this expansion for Fallout New Vegas. It's unclear what's going on, and it's a trip figuring it out, as you have numerous objectives and quests to complete in order to hopefully find your brain, maybe. A military cyber dog. Well, don't mess with me. I have a K9000 firearm which has a dog's brain installed for better aiming. You'll find some great new weapons and armor in here, including a suit that talks to you in a reassuring manner.
Does that feel better?
Hostile target.
This is some DLC with style, and I enjoy the adventures more in Old World Blues than the actual Fallout New Vegas itself. It's very clever and packs some great laughs, as well as ample opportunities to earn some new caps and experience. It's really big too. This isn't some wimpy 1-hour expansion pack. This one can take you some serious time, as you'll run all over the Big Empty, collecting things to rebuild the sink, which is like your living environment, and clever characters like Muggsy, who's a little robot that collects coffee mugs, and then breaks them down into usable parts that you can sell. It also breaks up the Fallout New Vegas experience and adds a slightly different style, which I think is welcome. Everything is a bit closer together, and there's a lot of enemies and lots of action. And in case you're wondering, yes, I was beating a lobotomite with an antenna array. And this gun here is definitely worth visiting the Big Empty for. It's a great place to visit, kick off your shoes, and enjoy the bizarre weirdness of wherever the hell this place is. It's Old World Blues for Fallout New Vegas.
Please, please tell me you brought me some coffee cups. Oh, sweet.
Sneaking done. Fighting now.
Yes! Yes! Soon my work will be complete. Soon the world will burn in nuclear fire. Soon I will... What? It did? Thank God. For a second there, I was afraid my whole purpose in life was obsolete.
Is that the best we can do?
I can't give you anything for that injury.
Achievement! Killing spree extended!
It's been a while since I've enjoyed a good, entertaining post-apocalyptic vehicular combat game. Buckle up, it's time for Blood Drive. It's like a combination of Twisted Metal or Vigilante V8 mixed with Dead Rising 2, as you choose one of several drivers and some kind of Mad Max Road Warrior style vehicle and compete in a variety of arena style events. This one is Demolition Derby, where the zombies are a mere nuisance. I'm gunning for the other cars.
Super bonus!
Wee woo, wee woo, wee woo, wee woo.
Repair kit! Boost!
Hang on to the skull, zombie road kill, destroy everything, checkpoint elimination, racing. There's a couple different styles of events in Blood Drive. In single player, you compete in a variety of cups and try to win them all in this fictional Las Vegas-style city. This game also has multiplayer. We're watching the PlayStation 3 version. Blood Drive is also available for Xbox 360. And I remember a time when this game would have been the zombie bee's knees. Back in, say, 1999, prior to the domination of the action genre by first-person shooters. Those who really enjoyed games like Twisted Metal and Vigilante V8 will probably get a kick out of Blood Drive. It's just straight-up vehicular combat in arena-style events with zombies.
Watch it! Killing spree extension! 1 minute remaining. Ah! Jello! Minigun! Ah! Super bonus! Tick, tick, boom! Boost! Watch it!
Select your loadout after you choose a vehicle. There's a variety of post-apocalyptic style cars and trucks, each with different attributes and weapons, as is typical for this genre. Machine guns, saw blades, rockets, landmines. There's not much in the way of innovation here, but does there need to be?
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the 3-of-a-kind Cup, brought to you by the Titanic Casino, where the band plays on all night, every night.
The gameplay in Blood Drive is solid and dependable. Where it may fall flat with some players is its repetition, because it's an arena-style gladiator game with cars and zombies. So it has more of an arcade feel and an arcade style than most games out these days. And it's not a game that's instantly easy to pick up and play. It takes a little time to get used to the controls and figure out what works. But once you get the hang of it and learn the environments and figure out which weapons work well for which events, Blood Drive is quite fun and addictive, even if it's not that original. But it doesn't need to be. Come on, it's Blood Drive. In addition to the campaign cups, there's also challenges that you can compete in, multiplayer, as I mentioned, and there's not much more to Blood Drive. The game plays it safe, but for this particular genre, that may be the best thing.
30 seconds remaining. Harpoon launcher.
If splattering zombies with an ambulance isn't enough for you, then Blood Drive may not be your thing. But if you think this one looks fun on screen, it is.
Kill!
Gladiator mixed with the Road Warrior and Dawn of the Dead, it's Blood Drive.
Suits up, fellas! Quit your grabbing! Hey!
Killing spree upside. Elimination in 3, 2, 1. Brock eliminated. Checkpoint hit. Elimination in 3, 2, 1.
You can tell a lot about a game by reading the words that they use to describe it on the back of the packaging. Is it the epic adventure you've been waiting for? The feel-good game of the year? A multiplayer experience? Or does it say prepare to die? That's what it says on the back of Dark Souls. From the makers of Demon's Souls, if you played that game, you should know what to expect. Expect to die. A lot. But also expect a beautiful, rich, detailed, and rewarding experience, if you're into it. It's a love it or hate it kind of game. It starts with some beautiful cutscenes, which remind me of The Lord of the Rings, always a good thing, and seems to have some awesome characters. I'd love to meet these creatures and slay them, if I could get the first base in this game. Dark Souls is a dark, moody, epic RPG adventure-style game meant to test your skills as much as your patience. It's the kind of game that I really want to like, but frankly, I'm just no damn good at it. But I want to make those of you aware of the game who are going to absolutely love Dark Souls. You create a character, there's numerous classes to choose from, and begin life, an undead life that is, in a dungeon. As you escape, the game teaches you how to play Dark Souls, and then you're on your own, hacking, slashing, adventuring, and, of course, dying a lot. You earn experience for the monsters and enemies that you slay, but you can lose that experience if you're killed. However, there's a catch. Your experience lives on in a little green cloud where you died. So if you can make it back to where you got killed, you can pick up your souls or your experience that you'll need to level up and continue your adventure. And what an adventure it is, so I'm told. It's supposed to be massive. But in order to play Dark Souls, you need the time, the patience, and a good degree of skill to actually play this game. Are you tired of games that don't even punish you when you fall off a cliff or get slaughtered by enemy fuzzy things with big cartoon axes? Well, don't worry. Dark Souls will make up for it, because even if you make it to the end of a certain part of the game or a level and get mangled by a giant end boss you weren't expecting, it'll send you back to your previous checkpoint and just take away all of your experience and basically give you a giant finger. That's the beauty of Dark Souls. Actually, there's quite a bit of beauty in Dark Souls. It's a gorgeous game, with rich visuals and lots of different intricate pieces of armor and ways to outfit and equip your characters. It's like Demon's Souls, except even harder. I don't know what it is, but I found Demon's Souls to be a bit more approachable than Dark Souls. This game is just punishing, and I immediately got stuck, frustrated, and annoyed. But don't mistake that for a poor review. On screen are some of the simplest, easiest enemies that you'll encounter, and even they put up a bit of a fight, as you have to watch out for their attacks, parry, dodge, and then strike. Others will defend themselves with shields or have friends bombarding you with fire bombs, all the while depleting your health as you make your way towards a boss. My strategy was to run around and kill a bunch of enemies and level my character up, but I still couldn't firmly master the controls of this game. Not that they're bad, they just require some skill. This is a game for those who are just good at video games. Think of it as Defender or Robotron 2084, except less immediate. Those games were unbelievably brutal if you wanted to get a high score. The thing with Dark Souls is that if you're not good at the game, you won't even see the first couple levels. After slaughtering some enemies, I'm going to return to my bonfire with my souls and then level up, which effectively saves them. It saves my game, and I'll get myself some more health and strength and then continue. But when I continue, all of the enemies that I've just slaughtered will respawn. That's your penalty for saving. You just have to do it again. I tend to play RPG adventures for more of a relaxing experience, hacking and slashing, turn-based combat. Dark Souls is anything but relaxing. The game will keep you on your toes constantly. If you think it looks cool, it is. Check it out. But heed the warning on the packaging. Prepare to die.
Banished from Earth Classic Game Room broadcasts from the intergalactic space arcade on its never-ending mission to review everything. Hey, do you like Dynasty Warriors and Gundam? If so, guess what? There's a game for you. And this is it. There's actually a whole bunch of these by now, but this is Dynasty Warriors Gundam Reborn. With over 120 mobile suits, that's a whole lot of robots to stomp things with. And I like robots and stomping things with them. Here's a look at the Gundam storylines in the game. Mobile Suit Gundam, Gundam Zeta, Gundam Seed, Gundam Unicorn, and Gundam vs. Speed Racer. Or I won't give away the ending, but let's just say that this time Trixie gets locked in the trunk of a Gundam, and Chim Chim is squashed. But surely you saw that one coming a mile away. You know what else you can see coming from a mile away? The exact same gameplay you should be used to by now in the Dynasty Warriors series. Love it or hate it, it's pretty much the same game every time, and you know what? That's a good thing if you like Dynasty Warriors, which I do. It's like pleasing, never-ending, grinding destruction and collecting with robots. What are you calling stubborn, moron? There's two major modes of gameplay, the official mode and the ultimate mode. The official mode is the one where you play through the storylines and unlock some cool animated cutscenes like this. The ultimate mode feels a little more like a traditional Dynasty Warriors game. The missions are a bit shorter, but no less challenging. You have a bunch of objectives to complete, and you collect characters, level them up, find or unlock new mobile suits, upgrade them, and destroy every single thing that moves. So it's, Dynasty Warriors. If for some reason this is your first foray into the excellent Dynasty Warriors series, I'll give you a word of advice. Look for the blinky thing on the map and kill it until it's not blinking anymore. That's the whole game. The storylines are told through little cutscenes, which, as far as I can tell, have not been translated, but it's pretty easy to figure out what's going on, even if you're not a big fan of Gundam. And I'm actually not all that familiar with Gundam. You'll know what to do, who to save, who to destroy, and there's a whole lot of other enemies in front of you to kill to level up, so it's just a lot of fun. So while I can't say whether or not they've made a great use of the Gundam license, I can tell you the cutscenes look good. The amount of collectible mobile suits and characters is incredible, and it does seem to fit the Dynasty Warriors style really well. I'd love to see them have a G.I. Joe Dynasty Warriors. I think that would be great, mowing down waves of Cobra soldiers. But until then, you've got this, and this is really fun. And it's pretty smooth, too, considering how much stuff is going on screen at once. This is a digital download for the PlayStation 3, so unfortunately you ColecoVision owners will just have to play something else, like Ladybug. That game is a lot of fun. In addition to the single-player campaign, there's also some good old two-player local split-screen co-op and online co-op. So grab a friend and kill things with mobile suits. Together. Always makes for a good time, and so does Dynasty Warriors. While on the surface it's good old button mashing, and for the most part it is, when you get into the game you'll encounter tougher and tougher enemies that require a bit of strategy, or at least a whole lot of leveling up. There's spaceships, there's really big robots, there's end bosses. You'll want to keep on your robot toes and not stand in one place, or you'll take a lot of damage and lose, and then feel really bad. Where does one get a Gundam, like the full-size real thing? I want one of these for daily use. They look like a lot of fun. Just run around, blow things up, like, hey Mark, what are you doing? Can't talk. Lots of things to kill with my super robot mobile suit thing. It's a great game, another fun installment in the Dynasty Warriors series. Dynasty Warriors Gundam Reborn. If you like the looks of it on screen, I think you'll really enjoy the game. There's so much to do, you could spend an indefinite amount of time with it. And I'm going to try to make this sound effect. Oh, damn, I'm trying. How do they do that? Maybe with a synthesizer. This is the PlayStation 3 video game console. Actually, it's more like a complete home entertainment center when you get down to it. And I'm not one to pick sides here. I'm not getting into the Xbox 360 versus PS3 Civil War. If you're a gamer and you've bought a 360, you probably take sides with that system. If you've bought a PS3, you probably take sides with the PlayStation 3. I've played both systems extensively. I'm giving an objective review of this from a technical standpoint. And there's some pluses and minuses to the PlayStation 3 console. Anybody knows that electronic equipment attracts dust at an alarming rate. And with this thing's shiny black finish, not only does it attract dust, but it just sticks out like a sore thumb. It's virtually impossible to keep clean. You literally need to hire someone to wipe this thing down with a cloth every 10 seconds. And even then, the dust just comes right off the cloth and falls right back onto it. In the history of video game systems, from the 1970s on, no one game console has had overwhelming domination of the market for more than a decade. It just hasn't happened. It didn't happen with the Atari 2600. It didn't happen with the NES. It didn't happen with the Sega Genesis. And the PlayStation has owned a large chunk of the overall game market for a long time. In that time, the Xbox has come out and done very well. And now let's get to the new systems. We have the Xbox 360, PlayStation 3, and the Wii. And frankly, I think they botched the release of the PlayStation 3 so horribly that they'll simply never recover from it with the kind of numbers that they used to have with the PlayStation 1. And the immensely successful PlayStation 2 with an enormous catalog of games. Something else that's changed in the past decade or two is that you can now get games on multiple game consoles, the same game, and they're more or less the same. So unlike having to get an NES where you could only play Super Mario Bros., or a Sega Genesis where you could only play Sonic the Hedgehog, you can now get games like Grand Theft Auto on both the PlayStation 3 and the Xbox 360. You can get the sports titles on both game systems. Virtua Fighter 5, Army of Two. There's so many different games now that come out on both systems simultaneously. Now, I don't want to get into the nitpicking on which system is really better with which games, and obviously there are some exclusive titles. For instance, Xbox 360 has the Forza series and Halo 3, and the PlayStation 3 has Resistance Fall of Man and the Gran Turismo series. As I understand it, programming game titles for the PlayStation 3 is more complicated than it is on other game systems. And where's the Red Faction series? Somebody needs to bring back Red Faction. I've been working with Sony professional video equipment for years now, and I work in home and online and television media. And Sony is, in my opinion, one of the best equipment manufacturers in the world. I've logged thousands of hours on Sony equipment and their professional recording decks and the PlayStation 2, and I've never had a problem with anything. I think one time we got a Post-it note stuck inside a Betacam deck, and we actually got right through to a technician and they told us how to fish it out. So I have nothing but the utmost respect for Sony as an equipment manufacturer. The thing with Sony is you're always going to pay a premium for that extra quality. And with the PlayStation 3, they got a double whammy because Sony bet the farm on Blu-ray. As far as I'm concerned, the PlayStation 3 was designed as a Blu-ray player first and a game system second. They wanted total domination in that very profitable movie market with physical media and Blu-ray discs. And that brings us to the whole format war. Now the verdict is out that Sony has won the format war with Blu-ray over HD DVD. I disagree with that completely. They may have won that initial round, that initial battle, but the war has just begun. The war is between physical media, like Blu-ray and DVD, versus online media. And by that I mean downloadable movies and TV shows on demand and the kind of stuff you're watching now. Now, I personally like to actually own a physical copy of what I pay for, but that brings us to pricing. There's been manufacturing complications with Blu-ray. They had to basically redesign everything from the ground up. The costs are very high to reflect this, and of course there's also the marketing costs in there that you're paying for. So when movies come out with a list price of $39 now, and Blu-ray players are $400 to $500, $600, frankly, there's no way that they're going to get a mass market with those kind of prices. So we have manufacturing costs, we have startup costs, we have marketing costs. All this is passed on to the consumer with the initial high price of the PlayStation 3. And then they chose to launch this thing without their key titles. The exclusive PlayStation titles that we all loved in the past 10 years are nowhere to be found. There's no Metal Gear series, there's no Gran Turismo series. All that being said, the PS3 is a very well-designed system. The wireless controller is fantastic. And as an all-around media system, the PlayStation 3 is tremendous. It looks and feels like a heavy piece of equipment. It's a lot larger than the PlayStation 2. I think that it's completely insane that the lower cost PlayStation 3 does not play PS2 titles through the HDMI cable. I think that's a real slap in the face from Sony to their customers, because I was a loyal PlayStation customer and would really have just liked to simplify my life by keeping one piece of equipment on the rack that played all my PlayStation titles, but they for whatever reason decided to eliminate that functionality in the lower cost PlayStation 3. Another gripe is that the PlayStation 3 does not come with component video cables or an HDMI cable. They simply give you composite video and stereo audio, which would have been great in 1991. All that being said, it clearly feels like a game system that has a lot of untapped potential, and I'm looking forward to more PlayStation 3 titles that fully utilize the power that this thing has under the hood. Sony dominated the market with their PlayStation 1 and PlayStation 2 game consoles. I don't think they're dominating the market anymore, but that's not to say that the PS3 isn't still a great investment if you want to watch movies and play video games. And of course, if you really want a great video game system, you can go out and buy a Sega Genesis. I've had my Sega Genesis since 1989, and it still works perfectly. Frankly, I'd like to see if either the Xbox 360 or the PS3 are working in 20 years.
Welcome to Classic Game Room, broadcasting from the new expanded Intergalactic Space Arcade, still under construction but safely orbiting the Earth away from all zombie attacks. However, it's time for you to enjoy some zombies. In this game, it's The Last of Us. The warning light in the background means we're losing air again. Better fix that. Zombies, zombies, zombies. Why is it always zombies? Even as I hit zombie oversaturation point, The Last of Us manages to deliver a post-apocalyptic adventure experience worth playing. From the capable folks at Naughty Dog on the PlayStation 3, you play Joel, who's on a mission to escort Ellie from one side of the United States to the other. It's like Cannonball Run meets 28 Days Later meets Children of Men, and of course, Ellie could be the key to fixing all of this. But where's Dom DeLuise when you need him?
I was never a big fan of these things.
I wish I could play it.
To be fair, the packaging doesn't even say zombies. It says, survive a brutal journey across the U.S. in a dangerous post-pandemic world. Aren't we always living in that now? That's why I record this show in space, to escape the bird flu, common cold, and reality TV. Now, I'm sure somebody else has figured this out, but the reason we're always fighting zombies is because publishers and game developers can't afford to alienate any one group of people or country these days. It's no longer the Cold War, it's a global economy, so we're not fighting the Russians or Canadians. Instead, we battle zombies, aliens, robots, terrorists, and evil corporations. Now, you're not going to offend any of those groups, especially the robots. Nothing faces them. Which is why we're going to hack and slash and blow zombies to bits in The Last of Us. A game that just manages to do everything right. It's a bit of a slow plotting experience, but really well executed. Great storytelling, good characters, and tricky gameplay because you're constantly outgunned and out of resources. This isn't one of these action games where you have an unlimited supply of lasers. It's also not one of those games that'll put you to sleep with endless stealth missions. It's kind of a combination of the two. Sneak around and try to get rid of as many zombies as you can before they notice you're there, and then unleash the shotgun. The Last of Us is a big game, but the developers intentionally slowed it down because you're going to be searching every corner and room for supplies to construct new weapons and health kits. Also, you don't move very quickly. Joel is really slow. I think he needs to find a shopping cart and have Ellie push him around, but then the game would be more like Dead Rising. Now, we're in a no-spoiler zone here. I'm not going to give away any major ending points or anything, but you start off in Boston and then make your way out west via Pittsburgh. Let's talk about the realism here, because we see Joel and Ellie driving west on 76 and then somehow end up downtown. Now, 76 does not actually directly connect with downtown Pittsburgh, which means he would have to take 376. And that's one of the worst roads in existence, so nobody would drive that on a good day when there's not a zombie apocalypse. That's strike one. Strike two, none of the bad guys in Pittsburgh are wearing Steelers jerseys. Even after the apocalypse, every day is a game day in Pittsburgh. Strike three, there's lobster boats crashed down on the Ohio River. There's no lobsters anywhere near here. There. I'm in space. Lobster boats on the Ohio. Provided you can look past that nonsense, the game feels believable. Because you're constantly on edge searching for things to stab zombies with, all the while enjoying some genuinely well-designed gameplay. And meeting new friends like this nice girl, and then smashing their skulls in. The acting and the storytelling are excellent, the level designs are really good, and things get genuinely creepy when you're walking around a sewer with a flashlight surrounded by clicking noises. Also, it has a flamethrower. You don't get it till later on, but zombie barbecue is always a good thing. It's not all about you either. You're concerned for Ellie's safety. I actually like the characters in this game. Given the circumstances, I think they're believable. Once you start playing The Last of Us, you won't want to put it down. Just make sure you have some time. It's not a quick game, especially if you play with stealth, which, of course, I don't. I like zombies to know where I am. I make as much noise as possible because, look, I'm in a hurry. Got games to play. Here I am, you stupid clickers. Come and get me. The Last of Us is a PlayStation 3 exclusive, and it even has multiplayer, which I have to admit I didn't actually try yet, but I love the campaign. The Last of Us is good from start to finish. It's a great narrative, atmospheric adventure. Now, if only they had done their research on those lobster boats. Maybe they were looking for zombie lobsters. It's a delicacy. I highly recommend the game if you have a PS3 and you're looking for a big budget title to keep you busy for a while. Play this one. Except next time, Joel, if you're driving from Boston out west, take 90. Did you even look at a map? I take back what I said about believable characters. Joel, you're an idiot.
Self-sustaining city of the future. But then the seas rose. We were forced to relocate, but still are floating.
But then the seas rose and Kevin Costner came to save us all after mutating into a fish. Or was that a different one? Did they make a video game based on Waterworld? I know they made a pinball machine. Well, never mind. Back to this one. Brink. Excellent art design on the intro. And when you fire up the campaign mode, you can choose to save the Ark or destroy the dreaded self-sustaining city of the future. I mean, escape. Same thing.
Any and all civilian casualties will result in your immediate assault.
That guy is either super strong or that's really shoddy construction. Before you play, you'll want to create a character and breeze through the customization options as quickly as possible because you can easily get lost in there. Brink is a highly customizable game. It's a first-person shooter with squad-based tactical combat, and even though the game starts with what appears to be a very interesting storyline concept, it doesn't do much to see it through. The game is optimized for multiplayer, particularly squad-based combat with your friends, and if you play it like that, it's a lot of fun, but it's not much of a single-player campaign, play-it-by-yourself kind of game. It's best when you strap on a headset with a mic and work as a team to complete the objectives. Then Brink comes alive. The gameplay itself is fairly traditional first-person shooter style. You can customize the controls as you play through the game, through the campaign, or through the challenge modes or whatever. Pretty much anything you do will earn you experience points and level your character up. There is a wealth of weapon customization options, clothing, outfits, hairstyles, all kinds of things to unlock. And that combined with the customization may keep you going in Brink for quite some time. But I am a bit disappointed to see that the storyline doesn't get the attention that it deserves. Taking the game as a whole, the storyline is actually just one small little part of it, and a fairly forgettable one at that. It's all about the squad combat. It always highlights your objective. What I'm supposed to be doing at this particular moment is guarding this one guy who's doing something else. When you play Brink, you can leave your games open so that other people can jump in and assist. And it's definitely best played like that, so my PlayStation home friend Skull Crush joined in. And I'm glad he did, because he actually gave me a quick run-through on the various character types and mission objectives. Even though it may look like just another first-person shooter, Brink is actually a bit more complex than the average game. You can fine-tune and tweak this thing to no end. Also, it offers infinite replayability if you enjoy the gameplay. There's a fair amount of campaign missions, but there's also customizable missions and challenge missions, as well as downloadable content. To be honest, there's a whole hell of a lot of things to do in Brink.
Enemy spotted.
My objective there was to plant a charge, and the next objective will be to guard that rover thing from enemy fire. Since the entire game feels like a multiplayer shooter, even in the campaign mode, there's never-ending waves of enemy forces as they just respawn, so you'll always be shooting, and unlike a lot of shooters, you don't just plow your way through bad guys in this game with ultra-powerful weapons. I really enjoyed the art design at the beginning of the game, but after a while the levels all start to look more or less the same. It runs fairly smoothly on the PlayStation 3, I have no complaints there. Even when 2 or 3 people were joining in, the game did what it was supposed to do. Brink is not the game to get if you're looking for a single-player adventure like BioShock or Fear. However, it is a game to consider if you enjoy squad-based combat. After a while, all of the first-person shooters start to blend together. I can say that Brink is definitely not a Call of Duty-style game. If you enjoy unlocking things and customizing your weapons and characters to no end, you'll definitely enjoy that feature in Brink. There's probably quite a bit more that I could talk about, but I think I've covered the basics. Squad-based combat, best played with other people. It's Brink.
Changing mag!
And see what the Psychic can do. Foolish ninja. You're no match for my artillery.
Damn, this chick manages to shoot more ninjas before 7 a.m. than most people do all day. And her hair looks great while she does it. How does she maintain such control? It's a secret, although I think she uses PERT+. This is Sengoku Basara, samurai heroes. Thousands stand before you, thousands must die. It's a hack and slash adventure game right up my alley. Choose your hero and slaughter ahoy. I wish they would have named the game that, because Sengoku Basara is actually kind of difficult to remember. Like, what's that cool game you guys were playing? Sengoku Basara. What? Sounds like something I have on the Neo Geo. If it was called Slaughter Ahoy, everybody would remember it, and everybody would buy it, especially if there were hot chicks with guns wearing captain's outfits from the Navy. That's my only complaint, other than the name, Samurai Slaughter Ahoy is perfect.
We've run out of rice!
I don't understand how this happened!
All right, let's go restock!
It's the Samurai Wonder Twins. For this genre, Basara Samurai Slaughter Ahoy does everything right. There's numerous characters to choose from, lots of enemies on screen. It's incredibly smooth. You gain experience points in your battles, there's numerous weapons in the game, you can upgrade them, and most importantly, it's extremely fun if you're into this genre. So fans of Dynasty Warriors, Samurai Warriors, 99 Nights 2 should check this game out. It's pretty much more of the same, but when it comes to this style, that's really what I want.
Even the sacred crow will call for this.
It's the dialogue that really drives the storyline in this game. Like most of those other games, there's checkpoints that you have to reach and then blow things up. After you defeat hundreds of enemies in each level, you have to then fight an end boss. It's the one-eyed dragon party time.
And leave your rear positions unguarded.
Damn it! How could I have not realized the danger?
Slaughter Ahoy! One-eyed dragon party time. Tell me that's not a great title for a video game.
I'll leave no man standing to avenge.
The boss battles in Slaughter Ahoy One-Eyed Dragon Party Time can be pretty tricky at times. While most of the gameplay is definitely button mashing and lots of fun, by the time you encounter an end boss after slaughtering a billion enemies, you might be low on health, so watch out, they can frequently be tricky. In fact, you may want to leave some health behind and pick it up later if you happen to get beat up during the boss battle.
If you're capable of defending, then you're capable of attacking.
Yeah, now that's how you defeat some enemies. This chick's got it figured out. The strengths of Slaughter Ahoy are both the smooth, fluid gameplay that's easy to pick up and play and lots of fun, and also the variety of characters which use different weapons, and then you can upgrade those weapons and make them more powerful. You're leveling your characters up as you play through battles, and you can also play those missions over and over again if you'd like to get some additional health and experience to take on a really difficult end boss battle later in the game, when they do get much harder. And as is common with this genre, after you spend 20-30 minutes slaughtering thousands of enemies, if you lose during a boss battle, you lose. You have to play it again. So it always pays to be ready with lots of health and powerful weapons. Don't forget to bring along some cheesy one-liners, or you won't stand a chance.
I don't think you realize how much of a mistake you made challenging me. There's a tiger behind you!
I like my tiger flame broiled on a Kaiser bun with sesame seeds. And I like my video games like this. Ridiculously fun, out of control, and playable.
Even my new best moves are useless!
If you find these games addictive, then you need to check out, let me read the real title off the packaging, Slaughter Ahoy One-Eyed Dragon Party Time. Oh, they already changed it. How'd they do that? Capcom, you make miracles. Sengoku, Basara, Samurai Heroes.
Everyone, take your positions!
Goodbye. That's the spirit. I don't even have time to reload.
This is Singularity, a game for those of us who enjoy science fiction shooters based on a single-player campaign rich with detail, creative cinematic storytelling, and loads of mayhem. The quickest way to describe this game is BioShock meets the new Wolfenstein. And since this is from Raven Software and Activision, who gave us the new Wolfenstein, that should not be too surprising. So, in short, if you like BioShock and Wolfenstein, you'll probably like this, because it's not your standard military shooter. The hook with this game is that you're shifting objects and beings backwards and forwards through time during gameplay, frequently used as a weapon, other times to solve puzzles. It's actually pretty clever and totally adds to the storyline. On a practical level, though, it feels exactly like plasmids from BioShock, but that's not bad if you enjoy these creepy sci-fi shooters that have big budgets. Because frankly, I could use more BioShock in my life. And if I have to get it in the form of Singularity, then so be it.
Spartan team, maintain present speed and heading.
The game starts off in the present day as you find yourself on the secret island of Katorga 12, where the Cold War Soviet Union harvested E-99, an ore that would give them even more power than nuclear weapons. But wait, isn't that dangerous? Apparently, as all of the citizens on Katorga 12 have been either killed or horribly mutated, and the story is told through flashbacks, tape recordings, and notes. Nothing we haven't seen before, but it's actually done quite well. So rather than terrorizing the deteriorating Rapture, in this game you'll be blowing apart the already decimated Katorga 12.
I wonder if it wouldn't have been easier just to go out like these poor bastards.
So half of your bad guys in this game are horrible monsters, the other half are sort of Russians, but not really because they're following some dictator that came to power through events that were caused by the Singularity, which altered time, which brought this madman to power, and of course you need to stop the Singularity and bring the world back to peace and order and happiness as we know it today, right? Good, got it. Okay, now destroying things.
They even hope to be able to turn back the clock on old citizens and make them young again.
Anybody else remember the movie Runaway with Tom Selleck? Glad to see it hasn't been forgotten. It's the Seeker, one of the most entertaining guns that I've played with in a game lately. I feel like I could take half of my narration from the Wolfenstein review and lay it right over this one, because I feel pretty much the same way. The shooter genre is saturated, it's hard to really break out anymore. But Raven Software seems determined to make an awesome game, and they clearly have some imagination. While all the standard shooter elements are here, like machine guns and rocket launchers and that kind of stuff, you'll be pleasantly surprised at times when you have to use your superpowers, generated by the time manipulation device, to get the edge in combat. So on one hand, that's really cool, but on the other hand, this game falls victim to the same issue which I thought lessened BioShock 2's combat, which is that in the latter half of Singularity, you'll be so powerful that you'll have to try to actually get blown up. Surprise, surprise, you upgrade your weapons and time manipulation device through the game.
Perhaps we can wait out this catastrophe.
Conveniently, there's E99 laying all over the place that you collect and then use at these upgrade stations. So clearly, Singularity doesn't reinvent the genre, but it's still completely enjoyable, and visually and stylistically impressive, although like many shooters, it could use more color. I could nitpick a few other things, like the fact that there's only certain things that you can affect with your time manipulation device. I mean, shouldn't you really be able to affect everything with your... Anyway. I felt the overall sound design was excellent, especially the water effects and the creepy dripping noises all around you, but the guns could have used a lot more weight. All the weapons sounded very thin, especially the minigun. I like to feel the room shake when I blow things away. Basically, every game should sound like Black. Admittedly, I am very partial towards science fiction shooters focusing on a single-player campaign, with a cinematic storyline, and Singularity delivers that. It does it well. The game may not be quite as memorable as some of the greats like BioShock, Red Faction, or Time Splitters, but it's good, and it does have multiplayer. But like most games, the lobbies aren't overflowing with players like Call of Duty or Halo. Yet, I like single player. I can't complain because I had fun. The game is well made enough, and there's enough things hiding in the corners that you could easily play it a few times, or get some friends together and try multiplayer. We've been watching the PlayStation 3 version. This is also on Xbox 360 and PC. And this is for those of you who prefer your BioShock to Call of Duty. It's the Singularity that makes it interesting.
Banished from Earth Classic Game Room broadcasts from the intergalactic space arcade on its never-ending mission to review everything.
In time. What's the time? It's time for Ratchet and Clank, Clank and Ratchet in Ratchet and Clank Future a Crack in time from 2009 for the PlayStation 3. I really miss this era of video games. I feel like it's already long gone.
Max? Yeah, this is General Azimuth. He's been helping me look for you.
The storyline-driven, charismatic, colorful adventure game genre has just been replaced with never-ending MMORPG, basically. And that's a shame because the Ratchet and Clank games have a lot of personality. They were a lot of fun, had high production values, good acting, great environments, good adventure, and I imagine they were extremely expensive to produce and probably didn't make the numbers that were needed. Now, eventually, Ratchet and Clank went on to star in their own movie, which I believe flopped, even though it wasn't that bad. It was alright.
Optical drive. This is senior personnel. I'm with XJ047.
If it's not popular, it's not popular. If it's not Minecraft or whatever's popular, just forget it. And that's, sadly, the way a lot of these awesome franchises have gone, including Ratchet and Clank, who has only appeared in one PlayStation 4 adventure, and it's nowhere near as good as this one.
From time to time.
On the plus side, you can pick up Ratchet and Clank Future, a crack in time, and pretty much all the other Ratchet and Clank games for next to nothing these days, and you should because they're great games, likable characters, and this might be one of the best Ratchet and Clank games. I mean, they're all pretty good, but I like the whole clock thing they've got going on with this game. There's basically a giant clock that controls time in the universe, and of course there's hijinks and lots of action and loads of weapons to collect, and the formula really hasn't changed much. It's more of the same, but more of the same is great when it's Ratchet and Clank. I feel like it was always a good formula from the beginning. And I think this game just nails it in pretty much every way. It's an interesting plot. It's a bit confusing at times, but these games are supposed to be fun and ridiculous. I love the time manipulation thing, and even the puzzles. I hate puzzles. Even the puzzles are pretty good in Ratchet and Clank, A Crack in Time.
If you find yourself overwhelmed by enemies, the Groovatron is the perfect tool for tipping the scales back in your favor. Simply throw one into a large crowd. The Groovatron will emit a mesmerizing tune,
which triggers fits of uncontrollable dancing. This will give you extra time to replenish your ammo, make your escape, or deliver a crushing blow to your would-be
And nearly 10 years after this game's release, it still looks great today.
Temporal recording initiated.
This has a visual style that frankly has just aged really well. This is a massive game, and I've had a blast playing through it. It's taken me weeks, but I've really enjoyed playing through the entire thing and just going to visiting all like the different moons and stuff. You fly around and collect the Zoni, and you level up your spaceship. But ultimately, Ratchet and Clank: A Crack in Time, I guess technically Ratchet and Clank Future: A Crack in Time, has made me sad. It's made me sad because this is one of the last Ratchet and Clank games that I have to play. There's only a handful I haven't played or reviewed yet.
Magistrate of the Lombax Praetorian Guard, Elder Councilman for the Center for Advanced Lombax Research, and you.
And it's also made me sad because I feel like these games just aren't in vogue anymore, so we're unlikely to get a lot of like really ambitious ones. I remember the era back in 2009 or so when people were screaming for more multiplayer. But now, at least I'm screaming for more good single-player adventures. And frankly, this game just gets it right. It's really good. And I know there's still plenty of games coming out with single-player adventures, like the Gravity Rush games are just terrific, but I kind of miss these likable, like, early 2000s games. You know, Ratchet and Clank, Jak and Daxter. Even God of War, although not quite as cheerful as some of the other ones. I think basically what I'm saying is that I have nostalgic feelings towards the PlayStation 2 era, which is true. And that spilled into the PlayStation 3 era with games like this. And while there was another Ratchet and Clank on the PlayStation 4, I feel like it wasn't quite as ambitious. Probably had some budget cuts. In any event, enough retrospective, heartfelt moping. Let's get back to shooting things in Ratchet and Clank, which has always had an obsession with outlandish weapons. That's really one of the game's most redeeming qualities, because it's delightful. The wide variety of silly, death-bringing destruction that you can deliver to your enemies as you just run around, lock onto them, shoot them, launch missiles, launch saw blades, freeze them, hit them with a disco ball. Electrocution, fire, you've got it all here. And it's fun, and it plays well. The controls are great. It's kind of like one of the Lego games, except more violent, maybe. There's no shortage of Lego games, as much as I like those. That's what we get now, instead of the big budget Ratchet and Clank games. I think the problem here is that this is clearly an expensive game, and it shows. Once again, though, if you're collecting these days, for the PlayStation 3, which is like a great value right now as I'm recording this in 2017, running from Space Bees, the PS3 stuff is super cheap.
My senses are detecting an
Just get all the Ratchet and Clank games. Start at the beginning and play them all.
Don't worry, you're sitting this one out.
I don't think there's a bad one. Oh, there is a bad one. That's right. I keep forgetting it. I've blocked it from my mind. Oh no, it's back. I've remembered. Ratchet and Clank. A dinner time discussion with Jar Jar. Just avoid that one at all costs. It's horrible. You should know the formula. You level up, you collect weapons, you buy new armor, you explore new worlds, and the game gives you many reasons to go back and explore worlds that you've already explored once you've collected different boots and different things, of course. You can go back in time occasionally. I'm just lavishing it with praise, but that's what it deserves.
You enjoy working for Dr. Nefarious.
Why could Mr. Zircon not shoot
If I was down to my last piece of gum, and Dr. Nefarious asked for it, I would give him the gum.
Alright, developers, if you're still listening, if you're still making these games after the movie bombed, how about this? Instead of just a Ratchet and Clank game, how about Mr. Zircon? Give him his own series of games. I guarantee it'll make dozens of dollars. This may be the peak of the Ratchet and Clank series. I don't know. It's hard to say. There were a lot of great Ratchet and Clank games, and the PS3 collection is also really good. I haven't played Into the Nexus yet, and All for One really doesn't count.
Sir, I'm pulling up a residual image from his database. We scanned it before he...
In any event, I highly recommend Ratchet and Clank Future: A Crack in Time. It's a delightful, family-friendly action game that packs hours of fun exploration. Wonderful gameplay. I love the art design, the controls, the music, the acting, the dialogue. It's just brilliant. Think about it though, Sony. Come on. Mr. Zircon in his own series just for me. Just make it for me.
Mr. Zircon is here to kill. Woo!
Congratulations! Your Synthenoid is upgraded to Zircon the Destroyer. Your mechanical bodyguard now comes with an explosive fusion cannon and rapid fire capabilities.
This is PlayStation Home Beta as reviewed by Classic Game Room in March 2009. Let's start out by looking at all of the fun things that you can do in your apartment. Well, at least you don't have to pay rent for this place, because there's not a whole lot to do yet. Sony PlayStation Home is free with the PlayStation Network, which you can download for your PlayStation 3. And Sony has a great concept here. Let's take a look at how you can create your avatar. You have a whole lot of different options. You can start with a preset. And these tools are kind of cool if you have a week to spend with them. I did a quick recreation of myself. You can start with a bunch of free clothing items like shirts and a couple hats. But let's take this outside, because that's where the real action is in home. Nothing exciting ever happens until you leave the apartment, because you can't even jump off the balcony. To my surprise, there were a lot of other people in the Central Plaza area, and maybe most of them were looking for something to carjack just like I was. I'm not exactly sure what their final vision is here, but this is clearly the kind of thing that Sony and PlayStation will be updating, which is why I gave a specific date of March 2009. And that's when I'm running around PlayStation Home on screen here, trying to cause mayhem, but you really can't cause much mass chaos other than just walking up to people, dancing in front of them, and interrupting conversations. There's a number of preset dialogue commands that you can activate with one of the buttons. There's a number of automatic dance options and gestures that you can activate. You pull up a list and a drop-down list you can activate with a different button, or you can go and type in an entire statement. I don't have a keyboard, but if you had a keyboard, I imagine it would be a lot easier. The thing is, you really can't do anything beyond the presets. You can't jump, you can't pick up a trash can and throw it into the fountain. You can't slap people in mid-conversation or push them over and steal their shoe and run away. The dance moves, however, are awesome. I think I spent half my time in home dancing. This thing has a lot of potential. There's other locations off the main Central Plaza. There's a bowling alley, a theater that shows trailers, and a shopping mall. When you go to another location, you download it from PlayStation Home. You can download it in the background, which is cool, so you can run around and continue to interrupt people by dancing in mid-conversation while downloading the bowling alley, for instance. I didn't find the movie theater terribly exciting. Again, there's really not a whole lot to do there. Bowling alley. That's where the action is. Seriously, the bowling alley is really cool. I spent most of my time there. There's all kinds of things you can do with the bowling alley. You can bowl, you can play arcade games. There's some pretty cool games in there. In fact, a number that I'm reviewing separately on Classic Game Room Reviews. See you back here in part 2, where I show you how to make friends in home and review the interaction process while also raining terror on the shopping mall.